BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Straight ahead on this edition of Perspectives, Charlie Rangel gets by with a near win in the primary, as well as President Obama and his controversy surrounding immigration. That's front and center on this edition of Perspectives with yours truly, Darren Hyman.
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables to speak on your decisions, cause in the long run it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light, cause it might make a difference in someone else's life. What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Perspectives. I am Darren Hyman. Of course, we encourage you to stay connected to our show. How do you do that? You can watch us every week here on BronxNet's Channel 67. Hit us up on the World Wide Web at www.bronxnet.org. And, of course, we are socially networking with you. You can hit us up on Facebook at BronxNet Perspectives, and then also on Twitter, and there you'll be able to find out about some past episodes of our shows. You can also comment on the previous episode and let us know what you think and what do you want to see in a future episode. All that's available for you to share your perspective. Coming up front and center on this edition of Perspectives, we go now to the hotly contested congressional primary race right here in the Bronx, featuring Congressman Charlie Rangel, the incumbent, going up against Adriano Esplanade, as well as Pastor Michael Waldron. In the end, Congressman Rangel gets by about 1,800 votes, and a hotly contested race up until the very end. And so we're pleased to be joined by very two special gentlemen. We're privileged joined by Roy Paul, who is a political analyst, as well as William Allen, who is also a political analyst as well, and also the Democratic District Leader in the 70th District right there in my very beautiful hometown of Harlem, New York. And welcome both of you to the show.
Thank you for having us, Darren.
All right, so listen, let's get right to it. Congressman Charles Rangel, everybody was figuring this is going to be close. It was 1,800 votes, and in the end, he's able to pull it out. Some people were very surprised, thinking that that Mr. Esplanade would have been able to get by with a largely Hispanic Dominican population. Your thoughts? Yeah.
Wow.
The rookie first. That's what we put.
Yeah, some people were surprised, others were not surprised. I think this time around, Charlie Rangel really campaigned hard. I think the first time when they had that battle, the congressman was ill. He wasn't getting around as much. This time around, he must have been at every block party, every avenue, street. He was just all over the place, hopping and dancing and doing whatever to get reelected. And I think he pulled out the punches this time. And I know he's probably feeling good about this.
Feeling good and probably breathing a heavy sigh of relief. Would you believe, Roy?
I would if I were him. And I think it depends on which side you were on and what you were listening to. If you were a pro-Charlie Rangel fan and you were listening to the polls and you said, he's up 13 percentage points, then that's going to be something that's going to take him over the edge. And if you were a fan of Senator Espaillat, then you said, look, people on the ground are saying we want change. We have young voters saying that we need a change. We didn't know if they were going to vote for Senator Espaillat or Michael Waldron, the pastor at First Corinthian. And so it depends on what lens you were looking at. If you were a strict political analyst, you were looking at the numbers, right? But if you were someone who was a community organizer, you were saying people overwhelmingly were talking about change. And I even heard that even from people who were supporting Congressman Rangel. Maybe I'll vote for him, but we do need change. And so you never knew how people would vote. Some of those people might be fickle at the last minute, vote for someone else. But I think in the end, what we saw is that most people, even if they decided that they knew that change was coming, that they were going to give the congressman another chance.
Yeah, but now let me ask you this. How much was this election based on personality or issues? Because you talked about change, but then yet and still when you talk about personality, You got the congressman, 22 terms. You've got Senator Espaillat, and they could have been the first Dominican, first Dominican congressperson. So a lot of it, from my perspective, was really driven about personality more than issues. Because we didn't hear a lot about issues.
Mm-hmm. And that's on purpose, I think. I think sometimes when you get into issues and the nitty-gritty of policy, decision-making processes, sometimes you don't have specifics, and so people don't want to go there. Mm-hmm. And so I think that when you come down to it, the issues surrounding the ethnicity factor, the first Dominican-American elected, every chance Congressman Rangel got, he always said, well, my opponents can't talk about experience because I don't have any. Well, that was the focal point of the campaign. It was experience versus non-experience, and I think most elections, I don't know if William Allen agrees, but most elections are usually not decided based on issues. They're usually decided because someone likes someone based on their personality or something that they particularly represent.
And every now and then an issue does creep up that says, listen, you know what, this is going to be your downfall. I mean, after all, we did see the departure of Eric Cantor.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good example, and the fact that I think what we learned from this race, one, it never happened in June before, right? And Rangel had an advantage. He had folks that traditionally came out and vote in that particular district, and in spite of all these endorsements that you can possibly have, it makes no difference. People know you directly. And I don't think his opponents had that kind of connection yet. Mm-hmm. I mean, you had the speaker in East Harlem, great endorsement, but could not deliver.
When you look at this now, we know that both Harlem and and the Bronx heavily Democratic districts. So this is pretty much a done deal. So now we move on to 2017, and then names that we could be looking at in 2017. I mean, I know we just got past the primary, but really, for those persons who are thinking about running, they're right at it right now.
Oh yeah.
And they have to be, because time's a ticking, and 2016 is going to come like that. We're going to blink, and 2015 will be here, and you've got a year to campaign. But I think those people really do need to declare themselves now. If they wait until 2016, I think it's going to be too late. They have to start cultivating the support on the ground that's going to take them over the top. And I don't know who those people are going to be, but I do hope that Charlie Rangel has a hand in picking his successor. I think it's important to send to the community a message that I'm willing to say, you know what, as I step aside, I'm willing to hand the torch over to someone else.
Also, I think if the senator wants to succeed him, he's going to have a stronger outreach to the African-American community. It has to be a little bit more stronger. He's going to have to get more strong black endorsements, because I don't think that happened this time around. I think if he's able to lock that up, then he could be the next candidate again, the candidate of choice for everybody next time. And I think he ran a pretty decent campaign, but he's going to need to really show up that black support.
Now, we've heard a couple of names. We've heard Adam Clayton Powell.
The fourth.
Yeah.
Yes, the fourth. We should say yes.
I was going to
Well,
say,
it
is he
appears
coming
that
back
way,
to
right?
life?
I think Adam was smart. I think Adam knew how to count. Adam knew he's a good math guy lately, and I think he figured out that if he supported the congressman this time around, he has a better end than anybody else. If you saw that frame of him on another station, and he literally was congratulating the congressman, and that frame has been constantly used over and over and over with Adam and Charlie. So it's almost like Adam's father's ghost was present in that moment. Said, listen, remember what you did to me? Well, now give it back to me. Give it to my son.
Well, it was funny because at Charlie Rangel's victory party, you can look at the stage and you can see all the people who potentially want to succeed the congressman. And Keith Boyd, a commentator for MSNBC, wrote an article, and he said if you looked at it, you can see all the people who are on stage who want to succeed the man that they're applauding now. And it was very interesting because they were all vying to take center stage at the podium when they were trying to introduce the congressman, or even just standing right next to him. You couldn't get half these people off the stage. Even at one point when the stage was about to collapse, they still wouldn't get off the stage because they wanted to be in the shot. I mean, that's how badly these people want to be seen as a part of his establishment. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, because it will get nasty and it will get ugly, and you're going to have talk about ethnicity and race baiting. You're going to have a lot of that in 2016.
Yeah. The question is with the division the way that it is right now, with the Dominican population, and then you also have the African American population. If Charlie Rangel,
who's aligned strongly with Puerto Ricans,
right.
People keep missing this relationship. There's a historic political relationship in New York City, New York State, between blacks and Puerto Ricans, and it's decades, And Charlie Rangel, father's Puerto Rican, and it's kind of funny doing this race. you know, he had to. The senator had to switch from saying I'm the Latino, put a Latino in, to I'm Dominican. That happened the last race 2 years ago. Now it's well, Charlie Rangel's Latino. I mean, he may not say it often, or he maybe don't want to say it, but that's who he is.
Right. And that's an important.
And if you look at his predecessor, Adam Powell Jr., Adam Powell, the fourth mother, is Puerto Rican. So that district has this African-American, Puerto Rican cultural connection. What, how many years? 60 years? And so I think what happened in this race, it was not so much African-Americans being concerned about losing a seat. They wanted to make, I think they really want to make sure that someone connects to their history in that district.
I got to ask this.
Yeah.
Well, let me take the break. Let me set the question up,
Go ahead.
take a quick break, and then have you guys think about it during
Can't
the break.
wait.
The question is, when Charlie Rangel departs, the congressman departs, we know his experience and his status. How much is New York going to be harmed by losing such a powerful, influential figure like Charlie Rangel? We'll get that answer after the break, right after here on Perspectives.
All right, give me a spot. You know my motto, safety first.
They could be dangerous. I think we should call animal control.
Animal control?
To be safe.
Don't worry.
Just...
I got this. It's a new motto.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Yes, I am. Give it to him hard. No.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Why you stabbing me with it? No.
They want to help,
Ow.
but don't know how. Teach your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
I don't know what's happening. Start a new chat. What did I do? Okay. Wow. That is so weird.
Hey! Hi!
Oh my gosh. Hi. God, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm so nervous. Gia, you're so big. Come closer to the camera. Wait, now you're in my face. That was so good.
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. That ember can ignite and destroy your home or community. You can't control where that ember will land. Only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how you can help protect your community from wildfires.
Back here on Perspectives, and admittedly having some offline conversation, it really is some good conversation. But I want to start back with the question that we start off. Charlie Rangel departs after this term. He's already said this is going to be his last term. How big a blow is this going to be for this, for the state of New York politically, given the fact of where the congressman ranks amongst Ways and Means, amongst all these other places that he holds, seats of power after 22 years, 22 terms, I should say.
I think it's going to be huge. I mean, the fact that you had the governor endorse his reelection and President Clinton says something about his role in New York State. And I think what was missing from this last election's experience was no talk really about the importance of seniority in Congress. It means something. And I think you said when we went off that the new person is going to be in a small room in the Turkson building. Right. And they're going to be begging people to come meet with them. And so whoever comes into that seat will probably have to be a larger-than-life person to fill the gap that's missing from the seniority. It has to happen someone who already immediately have some kind of access that they can bring personally to the seat, because the seat itself, as a freshman congressman, is not going to yield you too many things.
Yeah, and obviously, Roy, that person has to be able to connect with also the Washington insiders. I mean, the congressman has that connection. Anybody that you see out there right now on the landscape that probably has the ability to connect with the Washington insiders?
Not that I can tell. I mean, I don't know what the senator did to cultivate relationships in Washington, D.C. I know he had a lot of staffers who had some deep Washington roots. But I think it's going to take more than that. I think you need to have a mentality that you really just don't give a darn. Because there are going to be people telling you to your face, Congressman, you're not that important yet. And you can't take that kind of thing personally. But until you're able to win re-election, once you're able to establish that you can get into the seat and then win re-election, I think you'll get a lot more muster. But I don't know if it will have implications statewide. But I think in the district is going to mean something, because it's not just a congressional district in the state or in the country, but it's a very high poverty district. And I think that's where you're going to see the impact hit a lot more, because many of those resources that you have to pull in with your seniority to come to a high needs district, when you don't have that seniority, you're not going to have that kind of influence.
Well, the one thing that people think is that, you know, when you look at Harlem and you look at the Bronx and you look at the needs, there's a lot of needs out there. The congressman was able to help with the empowerment zone, which was controversial to some, but yet and still a major delivery. You're looking at the next person going in, and the question is, what will they honestly be able to deliver? Because they'll be at the end of the run.
And imagine how many years it took for Congressman Rangel to come up with the kind of coalition amongst his fellow lawmakers that allow the deals to be made to make the empowerment zone. You know, sometimes you have to trade things off when you're dealing with the legislation, and that only happens because you have longevity and you have enough time within that legislative body to build the kind of relationships to say, remember when I voted for X, Y, and Z, now I need your support for this, and a freshman coming in won't have that.
I mean, Charlie put Jimmy Carter in office. You know, I mean, he has a strong relationship with the Clintons. He even convinced the Clintons to have an office on 125th Street.
That's right.
So that's a strong connection.
If you get the President of the United States to move his office to Harlem, the President of the United States, that's saying something.
That's saying a lot.
And based off his endorsement of Hillary Clinton against Barack Obama, she won that congressional district.
So pretty major.
I would love to see the analysis of what it was like when Charlie Rangel was a freshman in 1971 and compare whoever's going to be the freshman 2 years from now, and how someone needs to do that sort with Charlie. What was that like? You succeeded Adam Powell, who chaired the House Education Labor Committee, and you were a freshman. How did you survive? What did you do to bring attention to your district and get some resources?
And as a prediction, you asked who might that be. I really think, and I had to be warmed up to this idea, but there's an assemblyman, Robert Rodriguez, and I would say take a look out for him because he's young. He meets the criteria for someone who's polished, who's smart. He came from Yale. And I really think that he's got a great deal of potential in that kind of a district that it's evolved into to really be successful.
What about Michael Waldron?
Maybe for state assemblies, you know, at some point.
Not the Congress.
I'm interested in seeing if he keeps his residency in Harlem, because I don't know for a fact that he actually gave up his part-time residency in New Jersey. He got an apartment in Harlem. I'm not sure he gave up his house in New Jersey. What would be interesting is to see if he has enough dedication to stay here when he's not running.
Pretty interesting.
What about Michael Waldron? It's not the Adam Powell Jr. district anymore. It's because of the new lines, it has taken on a different characteristics. So it's going to have to be someone who can woo the black base and make Latinos and progressive whites comfortable. And I don't know if Michael Waldron is there yet, based on how he ran his campaign, and I don't even know if Robert Rodriguez is there yet either. I don't know who's there yet who can pull that coalition together.
2-3 years, a lot of time to get things
ramped up. A lot of time.
So we're going to take a look and see. I want to move the ball.
Maybe Adam Powell.
Maybe.
The fourth.
Yeah, maybe. Could be. We said that, right?
Yeah.
We're moving the ball along. I want to move down the shuttle move down to Washington, D.C. President Barack Obama recently taking the Republican-led Congress to task for the failure to pass the immigration bill, pretty much saying that it's not going to happen because of the controversy and the literal backlog, if you will, of Republican insiders. And so I want to get right here and talk about that. When you look at President Obama, a lot of things have occurred under the Obama administration. Healthcare, which is still highly controversial, but I think the one thing that he really was looking to pass before he can get up out of office is this immigration. And by his own account, he says this looks pretty much dead. How much of a defeat is this for the president?
Well, when the president tells you something's not going to pass, then that means it's not going to pass. That's not a good thing, right? I think that it's not going to define his presidency in terms of his inaction to pass that one piece of legislation, but I think it means something because that's where the country is shifting. There are a lot of people who made some grave sacrifices to come over the border and to establish a life for themselves. But we all are a nation of immigrants, and sometimes I think we forget that, especially on the Republican side. But I think it's going to be interesting because he's said that he's going to use some executive power that he has to do certain things. It's going to be interesting to see what those are and whether or not this lawsuit that John Boehner, the Speaker, has announced that he's going to enact will have any effect at all in Washington. It might even get thrown out. Who knows? I don't know how much merit he has. But immigration is important. I don't think it's going to be a defining issue within his presidency, but it's certainly important.
Now, I'll take a quick break, come back and get, we'll get some more comments in a second. Be right back.
Look at me. Hey.
Raymond, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Maybe he can't hear us. Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
NFC, AFC, offensive linemen, defensive tackles, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks are all working with United Way for a million little reasons. The kids of our communities. To ensure their academic success all the way to graduation day. You see, it takes about 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a kid becoming one or the other could be a professional athlete or it could be you. Studies showed the earlier we get to kids, the better their chances. So become a United Way volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, and make a difference in the life of a child, for the life of that child.
Give.
Advocate.
Volunteer.
Live united. Join your favorite NFL players. Take the pledge. Go to unitedway.org.
Jimmy can't sing, and Tommy can't dance, so we're gonna put some ants in their pants. Aww.
Kids will spend 22 minutes watching us, the super duper party troopers, singing about ants in their pants.
Isn't that funny? Ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
We're back here on Perspectives and continuing our conversation, talking about President Barack Obama and the immigration reform bill that looks like it will not happen, according to the president's lips. And as Roy said, when the president says something, it's not going to happen, you pretty much know it's not going to happen. How much is this going to be a tarnish on his legacy?
I don't think it's going to be a tarnish on his legacy. I think Republicans are trying to make it a tarnish on his legacy, and I think they're trying to have some impact on the Congress, the Democratic side of the Congress, because part of now the recent gain in terms of immigration effort policy in Congress have now been more so on the Democratic side. And so to keep that strong vote on that side, that support is important to the Democrats. So I don't think it's going to have too much of a negative on the president. I think the president's moving out, and I think that his record is still solid.
When you look at the fact that he leads the way with the killing of Osama bin Laden, and unfortunately yet and still it seems as though he'll still go out being a very controversial president in the eyes of some. Does it bother you?
It does bother me, but I understand those who spend that. And when you have access to certain resources, you can spend a lot of things to make even Mother Teresa look bad. But I think history in the future will judge him well.
I want you to find me a president who left office without controversy. Doesn't happen.
Right.
Just doesn't happen.
And I think that at the end of the day, at the end of the day, a lot of people will say he's made a lot of significant contributions, but it depends on who you talk to. Is how the spin will be, because you hear some, he was the worst president of the United States, and to others, one of the most progressive presidents of the United States. Before we get out of here, let you guys in your own individual way, what do you think we can expect politically over the next quarter, if you will?
Well, in the state of New York, I suspect a lot more people will become indicted. Pete Barra, who is the U.S. District Attorney for the state of New York, or whatever his title is. You have to correct me if I'm wrong. He's already indicated that they are investigating other legislators in Albany. And whether they come out of the Senate or whether they come out of the Assembly, a lot more people are going to be face front, walking out of the courtroom with all the news cameras following them to their car.
I kind of agree with that. It appears that way, and it looks like they're trying to provide some kind of balance to that, because lately now a Republican leader in the state Assembly is now facing the cameras, and it'll be interesting how that case rolls out.
I always get concerned when you have a legislator who becomes indicted and cops a plea. Because usually that indicates to me, and I didn't go to law school, although I considered it, that indicates to me that they gave the attorneys something that they felt was credible enough that it was worth giving them a plea deal. They could have sent you to jail for 10 years. There's a reason why it's only 1. And that means that they've got some stuff on some other people.
Well, usually how it works is the first one to the table is the first one that cops the plea, because there's more heads that are definitely going to roll. And so, but before and I don't have enough time, you got to come back at another time and talk about this stuff. But what do you think this does for the political process as far as people are concerned? You're trying to get people out to vote.
Oh,
and why am I going out to vote when everybody's going to jail?
Yeah, and more people are going to run. You're going to see a progressive movement, not just with young people, but with people saying we're fed up with this. And it's happening mostly in disadvantaged communities. They're not getting arrested in Scarsdale. They're getting arrested in Southeast Queens. They get arrested where the per capita income is around $15,000 a year. And you're going to find a lot of people, progressive people in the community going, wait a second, if we don't run, then forget about it.
I agree.
Amazing.
I agree with that. I really do.
Yeah. Well, a lot to pay attention to. And gentlemen, we thank you for coming and sharing with us here on Perspectives and sharing your perspective. We got to bring you back. Half hour does fly quick, didn't I tell you?
It went by, man.
I told you.
You got a petition for an hour show.
That's it. That's it. An hour special. That about wraps it up.
Part 1 and 2.
Part 1 and 2, right? That about wraps up for this edition of Perspectives. I am Darren Jaime. We want to thank you for tuning in. Of course, stay tuned to Perspectives every Tuesday on Bronx Nest Channel 67. And then also check us out on the web. You got us on YouTube. You got us on Facebook. Hit us up, and you'll be able to find out. But we'll continue to give you more information about Congressman Charlie Rangel, follow up with President Barack Obama, and let you know what's going on in the State Assembly, as well as what's going on with New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, who is still at the halfway point of his mayoral term. And so not even the mayoral term, but his inaugural mayoral year. So we'll let you know more about that. Stay tuned to us here. Share your perspective with somebody else. It just might make a difference in their life. Darren Jaime saying take care. And God bless.
Let them know.
What's on your mind?
Let them know. Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life. What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
So, I got this new family. And I don't know what it is about this one, but she can't seem to put down that toy. Oh, and she even talks to it. Who's she talking to? Her mom? She talks to her mom a lot.